Health and Balance Physical Therapy, and I'm here with Dr. Lauren Zoke and talk about just working from home, things that you can with your workplace setup, your office setup, and then other tips and tricks to help keep you feeling healthy and well.
Thanks for the intro, Lauren. Like Lauren said, I am Dr. Lauren Zokin of Well Family Chiropractic, and Lauren Beecher and I wanted to do this today because we're both seeing the effects of people working from home and from kids doing school at home and families all being home together trying to do school and work. And we wanted to talk about, what that's going to look like and some things that you can do to improve your situation as long as this is going on and we're all kind of living in this different time.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think you said it really are just still really different for a lot of us. And even though you work with a lot more kids than I do, all of the adults that I'm seeing that are working from home, seeing a lot more headaches, a lot more just neck pain and mid back pain and things that typically aren't an issue for them because they have all of these props and all of these great things at their desks at work. And it's kind of acknowledging too that when they're at work, you're able to kind of focus on work and aren't bouncing back and forth to make sure that your kids are staying on task and that they're doing the next thing, and just acknowledging that that's a huge challenge and just a mental drain throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree.
So the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about today was just your workplace setup. So I know a lot of us, when we're in the office, we have a dedicated area. We have a desk that's ours where we're able to keep everything, where we're able to adjust our screen and adjust our chair. And depending on where you were, might have even had an ergonomic professional of some kind come in and help you with your desk setup. And a lot of us, we just don't have that at home. Still kind of keep the same principles in mind, add a little creative with trying to have optimal setup so that your body is still feeling well at the end of the day. But one of the things that I really like to talk about with people is even if you don't have all of the gadgets and all of the special risers and screens that are adjustable, all types of things, there are a lot of things around your home you can use to achieve that same setup, something similar. So kind of my first tip would just be making sure that you're able to keep your feet nice and flat on the ground. So I know I get in the habit of kind of like rolling back in my chair and crossing my legs or kind of sitting off to the side. And then I wonder why my back or why my shoulders kind of creaky and achy. It all has to do with my setup. So thinking, can I have my feet nice and flat on the ground and my hip at like a 90-degree angle? So your knees should be in line with your hips and your feet flat. So that might mean adjust the chair up and down, or even seeing, okay, slide my seat forward or back a little bit. Some of us are working out of kitchen chairs and chairs that don't adjust, and there's still a lot that you can do. So, okay, do I have a little step stool or an old phone book or textbook, something simple that I can lift my feet up a little higher? Or can I use a cushion or a towel roll and put it behind my back so that I keep that nice 90-90 position in the lower half of the body?
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I think that so many people are setting up for the day for, mom and dad to work and kids to do schoolwork, and everyone's at the kitchen table. And obviously, people are different sizes. So those are some really good tips. I think it's important that we think about kids too, because I'm seeing so many kids. And I saw this before, but if they're on iPads all day, like they're sitting like this the whole day, or they're sitting or laying in their beds, and kids are having neck aches and back aches, like kids who I've never seen for those sorts of problems before, just based on hours and hours of this poor positioning.
Yeah. And that's where I think whether you're working from an iPad or working from a laptop, a lot of us
Mhm.
are. You might not have your big screen, your double screens, depending on what it is that you do for work. There's still a lot that you can do so that you aren't holding it out in front of you and in this
Mhm.
really funny position where you're straining your neck and your back and probably your eyes as well. So
Yeah.
thinking of how can I put this device down? And maybe it means that I pull out some old text phone book or whatever it is so that the screen is in level with my eyes. That way I'm not staring down all day, but I'm not like craning up or one of these things where throughout the day my head just gets closer, closer, and closer to the screen. So finding that night and knowing that if you are working from a tablet or laptop, it's really easy to find a Bluetooth keyboard or even just an old computer board and attach it into your laptop so that you're able to have the screen at a nice height, but keep your arms in nice and close to your body. So thinking of the same idea of finding that 90-degree angle in your upper body where your elbows are right underneath your shoulders, arms are supported, whether that's armrests or the table or it is, so that these neck muscles and shoulder muscles aren't working so
Mhm.
hard to support your neck and support your arms, and you're just able to keep everything feeling nice and loose.
Yeah, those are great tips.
Yeah. Any other tips that for you for either adults or the kids at home working on their tablets and laptops all day long?
I think taking frequent breaks, that's one thing that I think is naturally probably happening anyway because there's likely a lot more interruptions when you're at home. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. Um, but if you're not taking a conscious break where you're getting up, moving around, switching positions, you're kind of losing the benefit of a break. So just, taking a moment and helping your kid with, switching over to a math assignment or something like that, that doesn't really count, unfortunately. So, everyone, whether you're working together or working alone, should stand up a good amount of time. So, I would say at least every 30 minutes, even if it's just for a minute or two and taking a break, checking in where are their shoulders, relaxing their arms down, letting their neck not be craned forward, taking a little walk around the house. Another thing you can also do is switch from like the table to the counter. So more of like a standing desk for a while, just to give, your body a break from using some of those muscles. We're seeing people who are having a lot of lower back pain from sitting all day. Once again, not in the best position. And a lot of people do utilize a standing desk. So doing that at home in a modified way can really be beneficial too.
Yeah, I love that. And I know I always do, if you can, change positions every 30 minutes. Maybe that's just a good check-in reminder of have my
Mhm.
made their way up here and it's time to let them relax. Or maybe it is my cue to go from the dining room table to the countertop and let me kind of bring things with me and have a specific setup at each area that I know I'm going to get moving just a little bit. Maybe every 30 minutes I change positions, like I move from one place to another, or maybe every hour or 2 hours I go for like a 10 walk, or I just do something and find like a physical activity for 5 minutes,
Mhm.
knowing that like in the office, you figure you might go and walk a coworker's desk, or you might be moving one room to another or one location to another. So with your day, you're typically moving, but now that you're at home, easy to just kind of find yourself in that chair, and then 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 hours later, you have moved. And our bodies, they're designed to feel so much better when they're
Mhm.
moving.
I agree completely with you. What do you think about sitting on like a yoga ball as a change in position?
I think for some people it can work really well.
Mhm.
Other people, their body doesn't do quite as well, and that's where it'd be really fun to just play around with and see. Okay, if sitting on a ball, does that remind me to kind of stay nice and tall? Or no matter where, am I the type of person where I just kind of slouch and that sitting in a chair with a lumbar support would be better? So, person who that ball works for you as a way to a little bit of gentle movement. So maybe you're able to bounce a little or rock a little side to side, and that ball is a cue to stay sitting nice and tall. I think it's a really awesome option.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And that's, what I'm seeing exactly with what you said about people saying, oh, I'm using a ball and usually I'm either feeling great from it or my back is so tired from, being in this new type of chair that I haven't been using.
Yeah, so I think it can just be really helpful to get a little creative and say, does a ball work well for me? Does this keyboard work well for me? Does this mouse work well for me? And playing around with kind of slightly different size things, slightly different positions, and figuring out, okay, I really don't like this, or this works for me. My headaches are going away, or my shoulder feels better. This works for my body, and just being a little bit flexible with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so true.
Yeah. Any other like equipment that you love, or just other kind of tip that you find really helpful throughout the day for either your adult or kid patients?
We mentioned before taking breaks, and some people do have a lot of flexibility in their schedule right now. I know that some people are having assignments due at certain times, or Zoom calls are on at certain times, and that in itself is a lot to keep up with. But for people who do have the opportunity for more flexibility, like if the sun is shining and it's beautiful out like it is now, that's a great time to get outside and get some exercise. We don't necessarily have to stick to those strict rules like we used to before of we're in school or we're at work and that's what we do when we're there. So I really encourage people to take advantage of the time during the day that the weather is nice, that they can get out. And, being in Wisconsin, it can be a little bit unpredictable. And we know that even getting outside and taking a short walk can be really energizing and just a nice reset for the day. So that's one of the,
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think too, just that idea of getting a little exercise, you don't have to set aside minutes or an hour to get your heart rate up. You can decide for a 10-minute walk. Or I know our personal trainer here, Adam, we've posted a couple of different videos of workouts that might take 10, 15 minutes. It's a really nice way to break up the day and get some of just those like happy hormones running through your body and help aged when you are doing work, when you are needing to kind of bounce back and forth between things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think naturally there is a little bit higher level of stress for many people, adults and kids. And exercise is a great way to calm some of those things down and some of those stressors. And I think that a lot of kids, it's unrealistic to expect them to sit all day and do all this schoolwork. And I think letting them, even letting them get out and run around in the backyard for a little bit of a break, if you're feeling that they're not paying attention or, they're not getting as much done as they should be or anything like that, just to really do like a nice reset for everyone. And if you feel like you need it, I think moving is so important.
Yeah. I think that can be kind of one of the like fun things right now, and kind of knowing yourself or knowing your children, knowing like, okay, what works best for us? And again, we might have to be flexible. We might have to play around. Okay, they have a call with their teacher at this time. That's the one thing that today needs to happen at this time. So maybe that's the first thing they do. There are some breaks in between, and that's okay. As long as everything that needs to be accomplished throughout the week is accomplished at one point or another, Maybe it means one day it's gorgeous outside and we are able to get outside for a while and we just do a little more or a little bit less, and that's all okay. It's all flexible.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah. I also like to think of just the idea of being flexible, but also staying like somewhat organized. So I know it's helpful if I do just have that running list and like times blocked off. That's what works well for me. Other people having that running list is really daunting. So kind of knowing yourself, knowing what strategies work well for me to stay on task. And that might be something that has worked really well for you in the office. So it can be with your kids' teachers and they see them in the classroom all day. Okay, what strategies work well for me? What strategies work well for my kids? How can I balance that so that we're both able to accomplish what we need to in a way that isn't daunting and isn't more stressful than it needs to be?
Yeah, I think that, well, there's a lot of great resources out there too for even creating like simple checklists for kids with pictures of things to do. Because one thing that I've been seeing a lot of is some behavioral challenges with younger kids, especially because of the lack of structure in their lives right now. Because especially the younger kids who may not have as much of a structured school schedule as some of our older kids who have Zoom meetings every day at a certain time, things due every day at a certain time. And I think for a lot of kids, that's really been hard. And the families I know that have played around with trying different things, I've known a lot of people who seem to find success in doing things like a checklist, or a reward system for kids. Like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to put stickers on the chart, and this is what happens next. So that kids are fully in the know on what's going to happen, and it can create some sort of structure really for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And then it can create just a little bit of ownership over, okay, these are my responsibilities, the things that I need to do on my own, or I do know what's next. If I just go to my chart and look at it, and that's something that children of a lot of ages are capable of. So giving that bit of independence, again, depending on your child and how they do with that, can be a nice way to free up a couple of extra minutes in a row for you as a parent to be able to stay on task.
Definitely. I don't know about you, Lauren, but we definitely have had some changes in our schedule, and sometimes it's hard to be as productive as normal. That whole mentality of the more you have to do, the more you do, and the less you have to do, the less you do. I think so many of us have thought like, we're going to get so much stuff done with more time. And then all of a sudden, like a day that would normally be so busy isn't. And it's 5 o'clock and you haven't done anything, right? And I think a lot of people are kind of struggling with that and how to feel about it. Have you felt that or noticed that too?
Definitely. I think especially the first couple of weeks, it took me a little while to kind of find my groove again and figure out like, how do I make the most of this time? And that's where I think for me, having that running list at my desk of, okay, these are the things that if I do have 5 minutes, I know I can just do really quick. But if I do have like several hour or a couple hour chunk of time, thinking what are just kind of the highest like ticket items for me? What are the things that as the most valuable and where I'm going to be the most productive with my time? And I think that can be for me a helpful way just to frame the day too, and thinking, okay, what do I kind of place the highest value in going to pay off the most for me? And that be one thing, it might be 3 or 4 things. And I'm really bad at knowing how long something is going to take me. So that's where I think, oh, this is going to take me like an hour, easy peasy. And then 4 hours later, I'm not quite done yet. So that's where having that list of just a couple items that if I can accomplish any one of these things, it's a big ticket item for me. It's something that I value in, that's rewarding, that's going to have some payoff either right now or down the road. And that way I'm able to like physically check it off my list. It makes my day a whole lot better.
I find myself sometimes adding things like really things I would be doing no matter what to my to-do list to feel more accomplished. And I'm in support of that completely. None of us have lived through anything like this before. And so to totally change the way that we really do life, I think we all have to give ourselves some grace, right? And say it's okay if you're not spending this time like learning a new language or doing something that, you can come out of this time and be like, I did this, this, and this. It's okay if you just survived.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, knowing that some of us we've found our stride. Some people haven't, and that's okay. Some people found it 2 days into staying home. Other people are still kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit. And that's saying that even though there's a lot of unknown, it's okay to be where you are and just accepting that and trying to figure out, okay, how is this something that might be positive for me, might be neutral, might just really not be going well, and figuring out, okay, what kinds of steps can I take so that this is just a semi like okay to me and hopefully something more.
Right. Yeah, I agree. One thing that I've been noticing too is that especially people who didn't previously work from home now have this new situation where they're kind of always available because they're at home and they don't have their same I go to work and I leave work kind of schedule. So I think, setting some of those boundaries is probably pretty difficult for people. Have you noticed that, or have you felt any of that with people going through that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's where I think, having that designated workspace when it is possible in your home and with your family can be really helpful. Or thinking of those, like a general time block for saying, okay, from 8 to 10 today, like if at all possible, I'm going to be here working on this thing uninterrupted. Or maybe you are a person that works really well in the morning, but that doesn't work working from home just because of your family. So acknowledging that you might need that. And that's where I think asking for a little help can be helpful. Okay, if you have a partner or a grandparent or someone else that is able to on maybe a different role or a role outside of the zone, how can everyone kind of work together so that you are able to do what you need to do and not have it be any more stressful, absolutely necessary. And you are able to say, okay, it's like 4 hours or these 20 minutes, whatever it be, I'm going to have just some interrupted time where I can stay on task and know that everything else that needs to is going to happen and someone is going to take care of it.
Yeah, that's really good recommendations.
Yeah. Anything else that kind of comes to mind for with schedules being all over the place and just kind of that variability throughout the day?
I think, kind of just adding on to what you said too about setting blocks of time. I know I do really well early in the morning, and I think a lot of people are like that too. Some people do really well late at night. And so I think it's just recognizing like, okay, this is how I work best. And within, depending on whatever my role is, I'm able to do that or not. And then just fully take advantage of that. So some of the stuff that, I may put off, or I think other people probably procrastinate on things they don't like. I try to get that out of the way. Like if I'm up at 5, when I normally would be like getting up, getting ready to go to the gym and things like that, I try to get the stuff out of the way that I don't like. So all of a sudden it's like 7 a.m. and I've gotten a ton of stuff done already. And for me, that's a really good way to start my day. So I think just figuring out what works best for you until this isn't kind of a regular situation anymore.
Yeah, and that's where I think, where even though you might not be going into the office at 5 a.m., if the house is quiet, really good time for you to pound out a couple of hours of something, it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine to take advantage of that. Or, okay, maybe your kids are a little bit older and they sleep in a little bit, saying, okay, can we take advantage of that? They don't need at 6 a.m. They didn't want to be up at 6 a.m. to get on the bus, or we don't need to get to school. So can I expand those hours or those minutes every time that I have in the morning, or time alone in the morning, to just kind of see that as a positive and utilize that time really well.
I agree completely. And I think too, really leaning on whoever you can, especially if your partner is also working at home, like sometimes that could mean taking the kids for a car nap for a while so you can get some stuff done. I talked to a few people who all they wanted for Mother's Day was to be alone for a little bit. And I I'm sure we've all been together with who we're quarantined with a lot. And I think having a little bit of time is so important. And so I think just really asking for that and being open before things like boil over into real problems too. So you can manage your life is so important.
Yeah, and that's where I think too, whenever possible, being able to take a couple minutes for yourself. So kind of keeping with the idea of when you take a break, sometimes it being a break just for you, and hopefully you're able to do that throughout the day. But if you aren't, finding those couple of minutes at the end of the day, whether it's like, I really enjoy meditation. That's how I end my day every day before I go to bed. And it's that like 5 minutes that I have, or 2 minutes, or sometimes it's 10 or 20 minutes, just depending on the day, I take to kind of let go of the day, ease into going to bed, and having that just be a really positive end to my day that doesn't take any extra effort or any extra work.
Yeah, that's definitely a great thing I should work on. And many
Yeah,
people
and I
I think
know,
would benefit from that.
yeah, and I know lots of other people who maybe that's not quite their thing, but they take a couple extra minutes washing their face or showering or putting on their PJs or whatever it is, and they have that routine that ends their day just as much as we have a routine at the beginning of our day and throughout the day that can just help you kind of wind down and enjoy a good night's sleep.
I think that's great. I think that we also have to give our kids a little bit of grace in this area too, because they're used to leaving for the day and coming home and, having time away from the home, away from your family. And I think some kids are really thriving under being at home and some are having a harder time. Every family's different, every child is different. But I think um, being able to support your kids throughout this is so important too. And trying to recognize the things that might be difficult for them and make sure that you're utilizing them as a contributing member of the family and to, make everyone's life as easy as possible. So having kids help with things like even easy chores, picking up, like sharing the workload of all the meals you're probably making at home, just to have everyone really working together on things and feeling like everyone has their piece that they had before outside the home, but now within one space.
Yeah, and that's too one of the things that it can be a positive, knowing that, okay, We don't need to rush off to all of these activities. So thinking of just those like age appropriate chores of, okay, this needs to go in the dishwasher, this needs to go in the sink, or you are old enough to wash this or put it away or set the table, or nope, you're home. Like we can work on these things because we don't need to run in different directions, and just
Yeah.
kind of taking advantage of that time. And I know I've had a lot of families who have said that one of the highlights in being able to sit at the dinner table family and spend that time together. Our kids are enjoying that just as much as they are.
I think so too. And I've been hearing a lot of the same thing. I think that will be one of the positives that people remember from all this. All the time that they got to spend together, good and bad for some people, but I think the time overall is going to be good. I think it, whether your family's thrived or whether you've struggled, we're all going to get through this, however we have to, and hopefully we've given people some good coping strategies with this.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's where I think just kind of keeping in mind the general idea that we've talked about of, okay, how can I like physically improve my office setup at home, whether it's grabbing a stool or a towel roll or bringing my screen higher, to as far as can I take a few minutes here and a few minutes there to step away, or how can I just be flexible with my schedule while still taking time for myself and enjoying that.
So many good points made, Lauren.
Any other kind of last minute thoughts while we give any of our listeners who might have a question a chance to type it in?
I can't. Are you getting any questions? I'm not able to see anything right now.
Nope, nothing here. Yeah, so I would say my one other tip would be just trying to think of like keeping much of a general schedule as you can, knowing that a lot of us as adults thrive with just knowing in general, here's how we'd like the day to go. Here's around this time that should be doing this thing or could be doing this thing, and our kids all with the same thing. And being able to have just that general like start and end time. Okay, whether it's 4 o'clock or o'clock, at this time I'm going to shut my computer. I'm going to try to leave work at work so that I'm able to take some of that time either for my family or for myself.
I think that's a great final point, and I agree with you. And as far as tips go, otherwise, just like what we've talked about, give yourself some grace and allow yourself, to not feel bad and to know that we're all going to get through this time. And however that looks for you is okay. And it's been so interesting talking to different families and teachers and seeing how everyone is getting through this time. And I think we're all just trying to do our best. And I think if we remember that while we're having a hard time, other people are too, and be nice to everyone. That's the best thing that we can do.
Yeah, no one's alone. No one's truly alone in it.
Right.
Awesome. Well, if someone does want to work with you, Lauren, where can they find you?
At Well Family Chiropractic, so wellfamilychiro.com, they can find all sorts of information, including how to schedule an appointment and all that information.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I appreciate all of the tips and suggestions that you have. And then right after we wrap up here, I will be uploading just a little book. It's a PDF that has some of more of the field tips that we talked about. So just kind of expanding on the ideas of things that you can play around with your office set up at home to keep your body feeling healthy and well.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great afternoon.